another episode of the Cozy Cottage Crochet podcast. My name is Hannah, and this is a podcast all about crochet, a little bit of knitting, sometimes sewing, and generally living the yarniest life possible in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I live. How are you? I want to say a huge hello to anybody who is coming back to join me again, and a welcome to any new viewers or subscribers to this podcast. It has been kind of an intense couple of weeks, mental health wise, first of all, but also last week everyone in my house except me got a stomach bug. So there was literally a point where I was like walking around the house with a can of Lysol and one of those Lysol wipes, and like before I touched any door handles or knobs or light switches, I would wipe them off because the baby got it, my brother, his girlfriend, and my husband all got a stomach bug. That's the worst. I would much rather have a cold, but thankfully I did not get it. But of course now my brother is sick with some kind of cold. He keeps coughing and saying he's not sick. That's part of being sick, and the baby has a fever. So I just have been taking a lot of vitamin C, and hopefully I will not get sick because I don't have time for that right now. But it has been kind of an intense couple of weeks. I have gotten a little bit done. I have a couple of finished objects, and I have still quite a bit of stuff to talk to you about. But I do want to, before we even talk about finished objects, I have a prize to announce. Yes, so exciting, because we are running the Year of the Sock. Excuse me. We are running the Year of the Sock 2019, which is just an informal sock make-along for the entire year of 2019, and it is time for the second quarter prize. So I drew that this morning. The prize is going to post number 301. You are Rachel 3512. At least I think it's Rachel. It could be, if you pronounce it differently, I apologize. But I think it's Rachel 3512. So I'm going to send you a message on Ravelry as soon as this podcast episode is over. If you could respond with your full name and your mailing address, I will get this out in the mail to you. You are making your first pair of crochet socks, which is very exciting. So what you have won is a mini set from Cloudborne Fibers, which this is 80% superwash wool and 20% nylon. And it is a gradient in these beautiful neutral browns. So you get 575 yards total. I'm also going to send this Winter 2016 Love of Crochet magazine. It's got some fantastic garment patterns in here. And there was one I wanted to show in particular because I was just loving it so much. And of course, now that I'm talking to you, I can't find it. And there's nothing more boring than watching someone flip through a magazine. I think it's this one right here. Look at that. That's pretty great. And also, sorry for the rustling, you will get this tiny little package from Attic Spendai, who is such a lovely and generous supporter of this podcast. This is their tag. They make beautiful hand-dyed yarn in the UK. And so they sent me a couple of these mini packs, and you will get two 10-gram minis. This one is Quoth the Raven, and this one is Vibrant Iris. And then it comes with this beautiful little lavender sachet, some stitch markers, and some tea. Oh, the lavender smells so good. So good. So all three of those things will be in the mail to you as soon as you respond with your mailing address. I mean, minus a couple days because it takes me a while. So that is the prize for the second quarter. There will be a third quarter prize as well as a grand prize at the end as well. So there'll be 4 prizes total. We also have another make-along currently running in the Ravelry group for this podcast. You can find the link to that directly down below. It is the End of the Whip. Hashtag End of the Whip. Sung to the tune of REM's The End of the World. It's the end of the whip and we know it, and I feel fine. I'm gonna sing that like every podcast episode until this is over. So it's going at least until the end of July. There's already like almost 200 entries in the finished objects thread, which is fantastic. I'm so excited that you guys are finishing, because that's the only rule of this podcast that you have to focus on is finishing. So you can start something new and focus on finishing it. You can get an old whip out of your Area 51 bin that hasn't been touched in years and finish it. You can have literally like some ends to weave in on a project and finish it. It doesn't matter to me. There's fuzz already in my nose, and this podcast episode is only 4 minutes long. I can already tell it's gonna be one of those days. So please bear with me. Anyways, you can find all of the amazing things that people are making. There's an FO thread, there's a chatter thread in the Ravelry group directly down below. If you're looking for me anywhere on the interweb, you can find me as the Cozy Cottage Crochet. I am on Instagram, on Facebook, of course on Ravelry, it's the Cozy Cottage. There are links to that, as well as if you have any questions or inquiries or comments about the podcast specifically, and you want to guarantee that I can see them in a timely manner, please just email me. I have an email address set up for this podcast. It is thecozycottagecrochet@gmail.com. Now, I just want to say a huge, gigantic thank you to everyone who gave my finished objects, my certified pre-owned crochet items, the sweaters and the shawls, a new home last week. They have all gone out in the mail and they should all be received by now. There was one that went out this Monday. So every single item except for the heart shawl has been given a new home. So if you're interested in purchasing the heart shawl that I showed in the last episode, just shoot me an email and I will be happy to get that out in the mail to you. What I am going to do, I thought it might be fun to tell you what I'm doing with the money. First of all, I'm really happy that they're finally gonna get some love and some wear, because I just, especially the sweater and like the Edlothia shawl, I have not even worn it once and it's gorgeous and it should be worn. So I'm so thrilled that they're gonna get the attention that they deserve. But also I really, really need to get my sewing machine serviced because it's making a very strange noise when I go fast. So it can sew slowly, but when I push on the pedal quickly or hard, it's like, it makes this, like the whole machine vibrates. And obviously getting your sewing machine serviced is quite an expense. So thanks to you guys, I will have enough money to get that serviced. I'm actually gonna go drop it off tomorrow. And I think I'm gonna take my mom's sewing machine as well, the old one that I have. I would like to get it serviced. I don't know how much it's gonna cost, but the quote is free. So as long as I have enough money to get both of them serviced, I will. If not, then I of course will get the one that I use, my little Faf Hobby sewing machine. I will get that one serviced first and then just save up for the other one. So that is just really exciting to me because I have needed to get it serviced for a while, especially after Stitchcation a few months ago where it sewed for 3 days straight and it just got louder and louder, and hopefully there's no parts. Hopefully there's nothing crazily wrong with it. It just needs a little bit of a tune-up. So shall we jump in to finished objects? Now, I have 2 finished objects. They both got finished last night. I wove in the ends, and as you can imagine, they are socks. So they're not, I don't have any crochet finished objects, although I have been working on some crochet projects that we'll talk about. I am ready. I've got my sock rockers. Of course, these are for the Year of the Sock 2019, and also for Claudia of Crochet Luna's sock theme cowl. I am thrilled because this is November and December's pair for the sock theme cowl. So I have officially made a pair of socks for every month of the year for her knit along, and plus 1 pair. So I've made 13 pairs for the year, which is insane. I at the beginning of the year was like, should I even set a goal of making 6 pairs in a year? It's gonna take me so long. And then by February I was like, I should set a goal of 12 pairs because I'm going pretty fast. It's July, it's the middle of July, and I have made 13 pairs. I probably will slow down a little bit now that all 12 pairs have been completed, but the first pair I will show you is the November pair. It is made out of this Sauber Bowl yarn. It is the colorway Bunt Metal. I don't know if that's focusing or not. It is 75/25 wool nylon. It is a 2-ply, and it has this gradient, and every ball kind of looks different. I don't know how many yards you get. Enough to make an entire pair of socks with this much left over. I did not do contrast toes, heels, or cuffs, and I at least have 20 grams left, I'm pretty sure. So the only thing on these socks is I haven't washed them yet because like I said, I wove in the ends last night, so I haven't worn them or anything like that. And these are really long. So this is the sock I showed you last week. This is the one that was finished previously. And this is the second sock. It is just as long. I want to say last time I took the stitch marker off. Dumb. I took the stitch marker off. I want to say it was like right here. That's where I was last time. I was past this blue section. So I did the heel turn and then worked all the way up the leg. So the way that this works is I just started from where I picked off, picked off. I picked up from where I left off. So this was the beginning of the ball, and you just kind of go all the way through, and then this, it goes all the way through like this. So you can clearly see that they are not quite the same. They are fraternal socks, and I love them. I think I like this sock better because it's got more blue in it, but I really, really like them. I made the leg a lot taller than I normally would have because I'll probably wear these in my boots in the winter. I say winter because you guys get actual cold weather. We get like in the 50s. That's enough for me to pull out my boots. I would say in the 60s is enough for me to pull out my boots. And I have an excessive amount of boots for a person who lives in Florida. So these are the November socks. The prompt for November was comfy cozy. And I absolutely think this fits the bill. Now I make my socks toe up, or at least up until now. My next few pairs of socks are going to be cuff down. But up until this very moment, I have made all of my socks toe up. I cast on using magic loop, and I think it's Judy's Magic Cast On, I think. And so I get 12 stitches, then I do my increases until I get to my number, which is 64. Then I switch to my 9-inch circular and do all the rest of the sock that way. So I do mine on 2.25 millimeter needles. I know people are always asking me what kind of needles I use. You need to use the needles that will give you your gauge. I knit pretty tightly, and this gives me a really good gauge, really good dense fabric. I do a heel flap and gusset, and then do all the way to the top. And then on these, I did 15 rows of 2x2 rib and then a bind off. So that is pair number 1. Those are November socks. I can't get them off the sock blocker. Very excited about these. And that means my sock bag, oops, that's the wrong one. This sock bag will be free to put a new pair of socks in, which I am excited. I feel like those took so long to complete, and they honestly did, mostly because I have had very little time to knit or crochet in the last couple of weeks because it's just been kind of crazy. But also they were a really long sock. So I do have a second pair of finished socks though, and that is, these are my December socks for the Sock Theme Cow 2019. The last pair, so the prompt for December is the season of joy, or something like that. Feeling of joy, something about joy, something that brings you joy. And of course, this is the colorway I picked, which has nothing to do with Christmas, but I don't really care, it brings me joy. And I love it. This is Hobie yarn, this is Antarctica in the colorway Falkland, I believe. So this was a 100-gram ball, and then for contrast toes, heels, and cuffs, I am using Happy Feet, which is also a Hobie yarn. It's just a gray. I think it's light gray is the colorway. So Hobie sent me 6 balls of yarn plus this contrast color to review and see if I liked it. So I will only be giving you my honest opinion on these socks, and I did have to do a little yarn cake surgery because I wanted them to match. So I ended up having to pull this much off of the ball so that I could get the socks to start in the same place. But let me show you the finished socks and then I will talk about them. You saw one finished sock, and I had no idea it was going to stripe up this way, and I really like them. It's so unique. I don't think, that's the fun thing about sock yarn, right? Like, you never really know what it's going to look like. And I would have never thought that it was gonna turn out like this. Here are the finished socks. You start with this tiny blue stripe, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be self-striping. And then it has a giant chunk of lime green, which I'm a fan of. And then it has this purple that gradiates into pink, and then you have a blue stripe again. Who comes up with this? I don't know, I love it. This is the same as the other socks, except I used a Fish Lips Kiss heel instead of a heel flap and gusset. This is what I use for all of my shorty socks. And then I did 12 rounds of 2x2 rib instead of 15 rounds. Let me hold them like this. That would be easier. So, did I like the yarn? Yes, I think it's worth the money. It's very inexpensive yarn. It's comparable to Knit Picks Felici, but I think it's going to be a little more hard wearing. It is comparable to the Serenity sock yarn you can get at like Joann's, sometimes Michael's. I would say it's probably about the same hard wearingness as that. I found in 2 pairs of socks or 2 socks plus this that I pulled out, there was 1 knot, which did not make me happy. However, I think 1 knot in a 100-gram ball for the price was pretty good. There were a couple of spots where the yarn was like a little bit thicker than the rest of the yarn, but you can't tell anywhere in the sock. And I had thought that I marked it somewhere, but I can't even see it now looking at the sock. So it kind of disappears, and these haven't been washed either, so the tension will even out a little bit more. This Antarctica yarn is a little bit thicker than the gray yarn that I used for the heels, toes, and cuffs, but I think that's fine. Like, you can even just tell with the gauge that this is a slightly more see-through than this. But I really liked using it. It's a pretty fabulous yarn, especially for the price. I think it's great. Their customer service is great. For my first pair of Hobbii socks, I'm pretty happy. I will let you know how they wear. So I have to wash them, which means I have to do laundry. So that's probably gonna be a while from now. That's not true. The laundry basket is overflowing. Let me be honest. It's probably gonna be like tomorrow that I do all the laundry. I need to wash our sheets. I haven't done that in ages. Not ages, okay? Don't think I'm gross. It's just been longer than it should because of everything going on. So these are the socks, the December socks. I really, really like them. I'm excited to wear them. Like I said, I wove in the ends last night. And that is pair 13, which is so, so, so exciting. And because this yarn, this is such a long green stripe, there are 2 green stripes left on this ball and one in here. And then the pink and purple yarn also is a really long color repeat. I think that I'm going to separate this out and use it for toes or heels or cuffs or something for another pair of socks, because that green is definitely going to be a toe. Even a heel, if I cut in and do like an afterthought heel or something like that. So the long color repeat, pretty fabulous. I probably wouldn't use this little bit of blue unless it was for the tip of a toe, maybe. But that kind of gives you even more bang for your buck. I think I could get an entire another pair of socks out of what's left. However, they wouldn't match, I don't think. If I wanted them to be like this, they wouldn't match. So that is sock pair number 2. Now, the next 2 pairs of socks that I'm going to make, because obviously my sock bags are empty now, so I need to immediately fill them. And I'm trying to use all this amazing, beautiful sock yarn that has been making its way into my life over the last year. So I am going to try 2 pairs of cuff down socks. I know, pretty exciting. And they're going to have an afterthought heel. At least one of them is going to have an afterthought heel. I may wait. I may do a fish lips kiss heel on one. I don't know. An afterthought heel is honestly not that terrifying to me. Especially since I watched Denise of the Earth Tones Girl. Hi Denise! Her amazing video on afterthought heels. That is kind of what tipped me over the edge, because it's always been in the back of my mind, like, should I do it? I don't know. I'm not really afraid to cut my knitting. It's just yarn. Like, if it doesn't work, it's not like it's a steek, okay? If you make a sweater and you cut a sweater up the middle and it doesn't work, you screwed. Like, there's nothing you can do to fix that. But if you take out one row of a sock, you can always just graft it back together with some different yarn. So it's not really a big deal. So what am I going to do? What yarn? So I'm going to make I'm going to use another ball of the Hobbii sock yarn that they sent me. So this is a different one. This is Happy Feet in the colorway Tutti Frutti. So it's definitely a self-striping, kind of purpley blue. I love it. It is, of course, 75-25 wool and nylon. It just says superwash wool, so I don't think it's merino, although it's pretty soft, so maybe it's a merino blend. This is a 50-gram ball, but I can definitely get a pair of socks out of 50 grams, especially if I cut in the heel. And I'm trying to decide if I want to do contrast toe on this. I don't know. I just don't know. I have some dark gray that might look really nice, so I'm thinking about that. So that'll be the first pair, and then I'll be able to, because that was the Hobbii Antarctica yarn, this is the Hobbii Happy Feet, so I'll be able to tell you even more of a review. And the second pair that I will be making, it was this yarn that was sent to me by a viewer of this podcast named Brigitte. Hi! All the way from Slovenia. She sent me 2 balls of sock yarn and then another ball that you can only get in Slovenia. So she sent me this Lana Grossa yarn a little while ago, and the colorway I think is 2508. I don't know what colorway that is. It is some kind of a self-striping, but I think actually it's more self-patterning, because that's the picture on the ball. Of course, it is a 75. Oh no, actually, I think it's 80. It's an 80-20 wool nylon blend. And it does seem, yes, it is. You are able to put this in the washing machine. So I am going to use this with this as a contrast. Now, this is the yarn that she sent me from Slovenia that is made in Slovenia, and you can't get it anywhere else. So this is a 100-gram ball, and it is 75-25 wool nylon. So, and I just think of the colorways, it's like this beautiful taupey brown, and I love it. And I think that they will go really, really well together. And I'm excited to try this yarn, especially this yarn. This is on, it's so dense. It just feels amazing. I'm so excited to make socks with it. So thank you, Brigitte. I'm very excited to start using your yarn. And that will be happening in the next 2 weeks. I'll be casting those on. So that would be very exciting. So let me move on to works in progress. I have worked on one crochet project exclusively until yesterday when I pulled out something that has not been touched in months. So I'm gonna show you what's not been touched in months first, and then we will talk about the one that has gotten all the love. It is living in a very dusty, because it hasn't been pulled out, amazing mustard and Harris tweed bag, which was made by, well, sold by Faye of the Crochet Circle podcast, and it is waxed canvas, and I adore this bag. And basically what is living in here is a sweater that has not been had any love. It is Tunisian crochet. It is the soft gray cardigan. This is a pattern by Kat Golden. It is in Simply Crochet magazine issue something or the other. I don't know which issue. You can, I've linked to it on my project page on Ravelry if you would like to find it. It doesn't say on the pattern that I printed. I had to actually buy the issue of the magazine before I could get the pattern. Now, it's a pretty sparse pattern. It is made bottom up, and you do the sleeves first. So I've already completed one sleeve, and what I was working on last night was the second sleeve. I don't love, see if I can do this without showing you the whole pattern. This schematic is intensely lacking. I would not say that this is a beginner pattern, even though it uses beginner stitches, because you're really kind of, it just doesn't explain things, which is fine. Like, I know how to make a sweater and I know how to do Tunisian crochet, so it's not really a big deal for me, but the schematic only has the measurements widthwise and lengthwise for the entire sweater, including the color. It doesn't have arm length, it doesn't have arm circumference, it doesn't have a bust measurement, really. That's not true. It has a chest measurement on a separate chart, but I don't understand why in this day and age there is no detailed schematic if you're making a sweater. Like, at least give me an arm length measurement so I can determine. My row gauge is like way off on this, which is fine because the arm actually might fit me now. So the hook that I am using is this Dunice. You guys, thank you for bearing with me today. It is a 5mm Denise Tunisian interchangeable crochet hook. I love these so much. I had another set. In fact, they're still in here. It is the Dreams. Is that Knitter's Pride Dreams? Tunisian crochet hooks that are wooden. And what the crochet hook is fine, although it's a little excessively pointy. It's just that the cables are awful, like truly awful. They bend and kink and like they're all over the place, and it's the worst. These are amazing. They don't really kink, they don't really hold their shape, and I was pretty skeptical of plastic hooks, and these are incredible. I do not want to do Tunisian crochet on anything else. So the yarn that I am using, let me see if I can find a tag in here, is Louette Gems. It is their worsted weight yarn, 100% superwash merino, in the colorway Eggplant. You get 175 yards for 100 gram skein, which is, it's a pretty dense yarn. I believe it's worsted spun? I think it's worsted or woolen, whichever one is not very common. That's how it's spun. So it's this beautiful eggplant color. And I just, for some reason, really wanted to work on this yesterday. So this is the second sleeve. As you can see, it's rather crumbly because it has not gotten any love. But this is where it was when I picked it up last night. So I did 3 repeats of the sleeve increases. And I think I only have 1 or maybe 2 sleeve increase repeats left, and then I'm gonna work flat for a little while. And the stitch marker on here, ooh, is a tiny little white head wig that I got at Platform 9 3/4 in London. It was a bracelet charm, and I took it off and made it into a stitch marker. So this is the sleeve. It got several inches of love last night, which I am excited about. I am excited to keep working on this. We'll see whenever the mood strikes me. I'm definitely going to run out of yarn, but I still have I have 4 more balls of yarn that I have not touched. However, I'm definitely going to be getting into one of them to finish the sleeve, and that's only going to leave me 3 for the body. No way. That's not going to work. So, I don't know. I think I'll probably just wait. It's a commercial yarn, although it's a smaller company, so I think that I will be fine ordering just some more yarn and picking up from where I left off. I can't imagine I'm going to get very far on the body with 3 balls of yarn. I probably am going to need 2 to 3 more to make the body, I would guess. So I'm going to make as much of the body as I can before I order yarn so that I can have some idea of how much more I need to order, because that yarn is like 15 bucks a ball-ish. At least it was when I got it at my local yarn store a year and a half ago. So I don't know. We'll see. It's probably going to be quite a while before that is finished. And of course, even if it's finished immediately, it'll be quite a while before I wear it because it's very thick. It's worsted. It's kind of a light worsted weight, and it is Tunisian crochet, so it's an extra thick fabric. And of course, we don't get very cold in Florida. Now, do we? Oh, I do want to give you an update. So I showed the Gramps sweater and the long line cardigan in the last podcast episode as the 2 cardigans that I'm going to make. So I have not wound up yarn for my long line cardigan yet. In fact, I haven't practiced my purling at all in the last 2 weeks, but I did order some yarn for the Gramps cardigan that I'm going to be making for my husband from Tin Can Knits. I ordered 4 balls of yarn, 3 from Knit Picks in different colors and 1 from Webs, so that I can swatch and A, see what I can get gauge with, and B, see which one he likes best, because I am not about to make a sweater that he finds itchy, right? So I got superwash treated, all of it. So one of them is Knit Picks Swish, maybe? So there's a DK and a worsted weight from Knit Picks that are the same yarn, and then there is a Highlands, Wool of the Highlands superwash, and then I picked up one from Webs. I did that yesterday, so hopefully those will come in next week. I will say swatching for this is probably going to be kind of a beast, but it's going to be worth it. And I ordered 2 DK yarns and 2 worsted weight yarns. I really would prefer to make the sweater in DK because I think it will just get so much more wear, especially because we live in Florida, but I'm going to have to see what my gauge is. If I'm not necessarily going to, I'm probably not going to get gauge on row gauge, just of the way I knit too tightly, but we'll see. We'll see, I don't know. That's in the works. Ooh, you guys see my new Starbucks cup? So I don't like, first of all, I need a lid on everything. I cannot be trusted. If there is a drink with my name on it that has no lid, it will get knocked over, probably at the most inopportune time ever. This constantly gets knocked over. So every couple of years, I get a new Starbucks cup, mostly because I've dropped mine so many times that it cracks and starts leaking. So I got one and I just love it. I got it this week. Makes me really happy. So let's talk about the other crochet project that I've been working on. This is a design. Now, I know you guys are very patiently waiting for the release of the Tunisian Zen cowl. All of my testers are done. I have not had a chance to do the final updates on the pattern. That's probably gonna take me like an hour, and then I'm gonna need to get it tech edited. I thought that that would be happening in the last couple of weeks. It just didn't work out that way at all, and I'm just gonna thank you for your patience. I'm not going to apologize for life happening. I think that there's a lot of pressure, especially on designers and makers and crafters, and we just have to put out all this content, like just keep going, the next new thing, like release it. And I love to release patterns and I love to be able to share that with you guys, but life got crazy and I just can't, it didn't happen. So if life is equally crazy, or I have an equally intense couple of weeks of mental health as I did in the last 2 weeks, it's probably not going to get done then either. But I will be sure to let you know the minute that it is ready to be released. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you to my testers for all of your hard work. I haven't touched my nylist cowl either. I showed it off last time, I think, or the time before, and it wasn't seamed, and it's still not seamed because I still haven't taken measurements. This is how life goes. So the yarn that I am using is Fat Bunny yarn. Ooh, just throwing things everywhere. Fat Bunny yarn in the petal base. This is a single ply 100% silk yarn, and it is lace weight. So you get 300 yards per 50 grams. So I have about 600 yards total of this. It is the colorway Dahlia. I have 2 balls. This is what is left of the first ball. And this, I just broke into the second ball yesterday. This is a design called the Vanya cowl. It is named after Vanya Hargreaves from the Umbrella Academy. And this is how much I have. It is a lace design. I love lace and single ply yarn. I think it's amazing. Now, this is where I was last time, this little stitch marker. So I have done all of these repeats, but it's actually more than that because I kept working it and ripping it out and working it and ripping it out, and I just wasn't happy with how the lace was turning out. But finally, I settled on this pattern, which it's not blocked, so it's a little difficult to see, but I'm so, so thrilled. So it's lace interspersed with solid rose to give it a little bit of structure because it is a single ply worsted weight or lace weight yarn. So what we have these lace panels, and then right here, hopefully you can see that, we have a solid panel with this stitch detail up the middle as well. And it is a 4, 5, 6 row repeat, and 2 of these rows repeat. So it's really only a 4 row repeat, and you can easily memorize this. I haven't looked at the pattern in 2 repeats. So I'm pretty excited. It's gonna be worked flat and then seamed. Now, I am planning on wearing it kind of loose like this. I will include instructions in the pattern because I don't think this is gonna loop twice around. I'm going to include instructions in the pattern if you have more yarn or you want to make it a different size to a different width. It's really easy. You just need to start a certain multiple of stitches and you'll be able to make it. So if you just wanted it to be like this much, you could totally do that with no problem. And I will include instructions on how to do that in the pattern. I, as we have discussed many times, do not like things choking me. So when this is finished, it's going to hang kind of loose and open around my neck like this. Because I love designing, but also I love making things for me to wear. So this is beautiful. I will leave a link to Fat Bunny yarn below. I will leave a link to her website. This yarn is fantastic. She had a trunk show at my local yarn store and I bought this. Of course, she only let me pay for one, Maria. She said I got the Friends discount, and I said, I don't want the Friends discount. I'm trying to support you. But it's just, I love the yarn. It almost looks like, the way that it works up to me looks like a monochrome, kind of a stained glass window. That's the kind of vibe it gives. So I love it. You do have to be gentle because it is a single ply, but it is living in my little dodgy bag that Allie from Little Drops of Wonderful made for me a while ago, and I love it, and it's perfect for this design. So that is what has been getting all of my crochet love in the last 2 weeks. Like I said, I had to rip out several times. Let me tell you, ripping single ply yarn, especially silk, is not easy. You have to very gently do it, slowly. You have to pull it down and not up, and it gets tangled sometimes. You kind of have to tease it apart. So ripping took quite a while. But I will say the yarn held up pretty well to ripping. I didn't break it once. That's pretty awesome. So I do want to talk about something else that has been in the works for quite a long time. I would say a year it has been in the works, and I know it's like everybody's doing this now, but honestly, I thought about this a year ago and I wasn't ready to do it. And then 9 months ago, and I was like, no. And then 6 months ago, I was like, okay, maybe. And then of course, everything happened at the beginning of this year and it got put on the back burner. And I would say in the last 3 months, I have really been thinking about it very, very much. And now I am ready to proceed. So before I even tell you what it is, what I am going to say is that no matter what, this podcast is going to remain free. It will be bi-weekly. You do not have to do anything that you can't afford. You don't have to do anything if you don't want to. I do this because I love it. I do this because of the community that has been created, and it's fabulous. So, with that being said, don't worry, this podcast is not going away. This content is not going away. I will still continue to record an episode bi-weekly for the entire year, unless, of course, something crazy happens. But I would say this is 2 years I have been podcasting, and only a few times have I gone 3 weeks in between episodes. I'm very consistent that way, and I want to be. I want to respect your time and show up in your inbox when I say that I will. So I have a Patreon account. Now, like I said, I know everyone's doing this. This is not going to affect this channel. I would like to be able to make more content sometimes, and I honestly can't do that because this is what I can provide for free, and I love it. And the reason that I podcast every 2 weeks is because this is a sustainable model for me. I know so many podcasters, so many, who start podcasting every week. They're on fire. They're doing a podcast. They're doing a blog. They're doing an Etsy store. They're doing all this stuff, and they cannot keep it up. It is not sustainable. And of course, they fade away, which makes me really sad because once you get to know someone, you kind of want to keep up with their life. And of course, we don't necessarily have the right to their life, but it's disappointing when people disappear like that. And this is an advice that I give all kinds of people who reach out to me and say, what do I do? Like, how do I start a podcast? And I'm like, you just need to be consistent. You have to be consistent. Just imagine if you were showing up to hang out with some friends and like most of the time you didn't show up. And then sometimes like 3 months later you show up but no one's there because you weren't there. Eventually people are going to be like, why? Where were you? I haven't been looking for you. So you have to be consistent with your content that you upload. So you have to build a sustainable schedule, and you have to really be honest about that. Now, could I get more subscribers if I posted every week? Sure. Am I going to do that? Absolutely not, because I cannot keep up with that in my life. Bi-weekly is what I can do, and it feels good to me, and it just gives me an appropriate amount of things to show you, an appropriate amount of time to think. If I'm sick 1 week, if I'm gone 1 week, it's just so much easier for me to maintain this schedule. But I would like to upload videos every once in a while that are extra. For example, especially on things that I keep getting a lot of questions on. So how do you start a podcast? I would love to record a video and just give some tips. How to write a crochet pattern. That would be fabulous as well. So there's all kinds of yarn elitism, yarn snobbery. I would love to record a video on that. And I tend to work these things into my podcast episodes as well, but sometimes they get very full and I don't want to keep you guys longer than an hour, right? So I would like to be able to do that. And also, I hesitated on pushing the publish button on my Patreon page for months because I wanted there to be something that I could give back to you other than just another video on the channel occasionally. And I didn't really have a clear direction as to what that was. But I have this direction now, and it's so obvious that I can't believe I didn't think of it sooner. So if you follow me on Instagram, and I know quite a few of you do, especially my Instagram stories, I spend a lot of time sharing things about mental health, about just encouragement, reminders, just things to make you feel good, to make you feel better about yourself, to make you recognize the value that you have as a person. That is what I love to do. And I do it on Instagram constantly. It's mostly reposting, but I love that stuff. And it's one of the things that I'm very passionate about. So I love yarn. I'm very passionate about mental health. And of course, I talk about it all the time on the podcast as well. So when this idea came to me, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I haven't thought of this sooner. So if you are a Patreon supporter, and there are all kinds of different tiers, everybody, no matter what, will get a weekly kind of love letter from me, which I don't want you to feel weird that I'm calling it a love letter. It will be posted in the Patreon thing, but it will be a weekly, probably on Sunday morning, an encouragement letter from me. It will tell you to keep going. It will have something about mental health. It will have some kind of practical step for you to do. And I think, like I said, I can't believe I didn't think of that sooner, because that is such a part of who I am. Like, I want to be encouraging. I want to make you think positively about yourself and recognize the positive changes that you have made and the growth that you have had. So that is really special to me. So that is what I've decided to do. And once I got that idea, I was like, okay, now is the time. Now I know that this, and that's never going to be a burden on me to write something encouraging to give specifically to you guys, because that's kind of who I am, which you would know. You stuck around this long, right? I try my best to be encouraging and to be honest. I'm not ever going to pretend that everything is fine when it's not. As I said at the very beginning of this episode, it has been quite an intense couple of weeks mental health wise, and people have been encouraging me, so I would love to pass that along to you. So there are all kinds of tiers. They're all named after different fiber types, so there's like merino and alpaca and llama, so to fit any budget. If you have the resources and you would like to be involved in that, there is a link directly below. Please don't think that I am trying to pressure you, or that, as I said before, anything, if you don't do this, your bi-weekly podcast will go away. It will not. This platform is ad-free, and it will continue to be uploaded every 2 weeks. That is my commitment to you. It does not require any payment on your part. But if you have the resources and you would like to support me in a different way, and you would like to receive that weekly encouragement, that love letter from me, then there is a link down below, and hopefully there will be an availability, no matter what your budget is, to be able to fit that. So I feel weird. It's weird to tell someone, it was weird to tell people, it's weird to talk about money anyways, but I know that you guys are so supportive, and I would not be doing this if it weren't for you. Like, literally. I have been so excited the last 2 weeks, despite everything that has gone on, to just get back here and talk to you again and share with you what I've been working on, and have you guys share with me what you're working on, and it's just the best thing in the world. So I'm very excited. Also, I do have a giveaway. So for anyone who signs up by the next podcast episode, so that will be 2 weeks from now, I'm going to just randomly generate one of those people, no matter what the price tier is. I don't want there to be any kind of elitism, like you get more because you pay more. That's not it. Everyone gets the same access if you sign up, and you will win, someone will win, this amazing skein of Quoth the Raven, which is an Attic spin dye yarn. And I will leave a link to their shop below as well, because they make beautiful yarn. In fact, I have caked up 2 of their skeins of yarn I have this idea brewing in my head, and I just haven't had a chance to work on it yet. So this yarn is beautiful, and the reason that I'm choosing to give away this yarn to anyone who signs up is specifically because Andy and Angela and I have this connection. The reason we connected is because we're both concerned about crochet and mental health. They're, of course, very passionate about raising awareness for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder, and it's very painful, like extremely. Like, your joints are all out of place and too lubricated, and your skin bruises really easily, and there's bleeding, and that can cause a lot of mental health issues. And so our conversations have been a lot around that, and I just thought that it would be so perfect to bless someone with a skein of yarn made lovingly by a person who is equally as passionate about mental health as I am, and to have that go with the love letter in the inbox. So I'm excited. I will draw that by the next time out of any of the number of people, hopefully, who will sign up for the Patreon account. So I'm thrilled to be able to offer that giveaway. I have been saving it since it came in for this moment, and it just took a while to get to this moment. So that's enough about that. If you want to, I'd be thrilled. If you don't, just come back in 2 weeks. There will be another free podcast episode. And the other thing I want to talk about is what I have been doing the last 2 weeks, because I really have not been knitting or crocheting. My time has been so limited. And sorry, there's like this notification in the middle of my screen. I can't see anything. Come on, phone. Don't you know I'm doing important business here? I have been reading in the last 2 weeks. And so in the last 2.5 weeks, I have read these books. Now, I am not saying that to be like, oh, look how good she can read. Like, she read all these books. I love to read, and it has been a long time since I have read. I would say since the beginning of the year, when everything kind of was insane and terrible. So I just haven't had the mental space. And for some reason, I started with this book, someone had recommended this book to me. Now, if faith is not your thing, totally fine. But this is a book about Romans in the Bible. And someone recommended it to me. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll order it. And then I had it and it sat around for a little while. And finally, I just was in a place a couple of weeks ago where I just couldn't do anything else. Like I was kind of just staring at the wall and I was like, what am I going to do? I don't have the energy. I don't have the mental space. I certainly don't have any emotional energy left. And so I opened this and I read like a chapter, and that was a mistake. I don't know if it was a mistake, but I literally could not read this book fast enough. Like, read is the wrong word. Like, I gobbled it up. Like, if you were gonna eat something as fast as I read this book, your parents would be like, slow down, you're gonna choke yourself. That's how quickly. I almost need to read it again because I read it so quickly. And it was just exactly what I needed. It's called Romans Disarmed. And then that kind of set me on this spiral of reading all of these books that I have been meaning to read for months, and I just have not had the mental space to read. So I'm just going to hit them really quickly, and then I'll talk about a couple of them at length. So the ones that are on faith, I will hit pretty quickly because I know some of you guys are really interested in that, and some of you guys are not. So you can take this as you will. This is called Pastrix, the cranky, beautiful faith of a sinner and a saint. It is a book about a pastor in the Northwest. I want to say Colorado. And she is very cranky, and I love it. It was so honest. It was like a kind of like a memoir almost. And then these two books. This one is called The Bible Tells Me So, Why Defending Scripture Has Made Us Unable to Read It. And this is called The Sin of Certainty, Why God Desires Our Trust Instead of Our Correct Beliefs. And these books are so fantastic. I read this in a day, and I couldn't put it down. And this one as well. They're by a guy called Pete Enns, who has a podcast called The Bible for Normal People, which is fabulous. And I just couldn't put them down. It's like everything I needed in my life was just to read and have some new ideas come into my head. And it's so calming. Like, I've been meaning to read all of this stuff, and I just couldn't do it. I wasn't in that place. But once the wall finally broke, it was just finally like a flood of, I don't know a good word for it. Like finally having a drink after you've been thirsty for a while, but you didn't know you were thirsty, I guess is the good way to put it. So those books are fabulous, and I recommend all of them. And I also read a couple of other books, which I had been meaning to read for a while. And they are all on race. Now, this one is called So You Want to Talk About Race. This one is called White Fragility. Why it's so hard for white people to talk about racism. And then this one is Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria. This one, I ordered it and then it came in the mail, and I was like, oh, I did not realize this was going to be a 400-page book. I read it. If you're going to read only one, I highly, highly recommend this book. This is so clear, so concise, and so personal that you won't be able to help how you understand it and how you are affected by it. This, I think it should be required reading for white people, although it's a little more academic. This one, it's really, really well written, but it has a ton of statistics and stuff like that in it, which is fine for a person like me. I don't mind reading that stuff. I will say I didn't read it as quickly as the other ones because I could tend to get a little bogged down in the numbers, but it's a very, very, very good book. Definitely worth the read. But if you're only going to read one, definitely read this one. I highly, highly recommend this book, and I think it should be required reading, especially if you live in America, for any person. Because it's just a subject we need to talk about. Oh, and that reminds me. I'm about to get a little feisty, you guys, so buckle up. I take very seriously protecting this space from nasty people. Now, I know 99% of you guys are the best. You're so thoughtful, you're so kind, you want to learn, you want to grow, you want to accept people, you want to be in relationship with people who look differently than you. But there are some people who are trolls. And there always have been, right? The number one rule of internet engagement, and this is another thing I tell people who want to start a podcast, is do not, under any circumstances, feed the trolls. Don't feed the trolls, okay? If you get in an argument with someone on your YouTube page, nothing good is gonna come out of that. So what I do when people are being nasty is I delete them. And you guys hopefully have not seen any nastiness. Now, I don't particularly mind if someone says something personally about me, but if someone leaves like racist or discriminatory comments on YouTube I have not had this happen at all in Ravelry. I haven't had to delete anything there. It has happened on YouTube and it has happened on Instagram. People have been a little nasty, I would say, especially in the last 2 weeks. And I am very vigilant about that thing. It may take me a while to respond to every comment. I always try to do that because I really value your contributions if you take the time to leave a comment. But on the last episode, there were some people who thought it was appropriate to voice their nasty, horrible opinions about other people in my YouTube comments. No, it's not acceptable. Not acceptable, okay? I just deleted them. I'm not going to engage. I don't have time for that. I certainly don't have the mental or emotional energy for that. And I am more concerned about making this a safe space for people of color than I am about people voicing their nasty opinions and having the right to do that. I like it when people are like, oh, I just want this to be a safe space for everyone. That's mostly true. I mostly want this to be a safe space for everyone. But I will tell you, I do not want this to be a safe space for nasty people. This is a space where under no circumstances you are allowed to call out another person on their race, on their sexuality, on their ethnicity, on their religion, on their culture. Absolutely not. Like, no. If you are a nasty person and you think that it's okay to hurt other people, this is not a safe space for you. This is a safe space for people who want to be in community with each other about yarn. And I especially give priority to people of color and LGBT people who need to feel safe. And I just want to talk to the people of color for a moment. I'm sure you are exhausted, especially over the things that have happened in the last 2 weeks specifically. The things that just keep poking you in the same spot until it bruises and breaks and bleeds, right? I'm sure you're exhausted and you don't need to deal with any of this. So let me just be really clear. If it's you, a person of color or an LGBT person or any other kind of marginalized or minority group versus a nasty person, I pick you. If it is you versus me having more subscribers, or me having more Patreon supporters, or me having more people who follow me on Instagram, I pick you. You are my top priority. And I hope you know that. I am absolutely not going to get emotional right now because that's not fair at all. I have no reason to get emotional about this. All I'm going to say is, I think that I have been explicitly clear from, hopefully, I hope that I have been explicitly clear in past episodes. And I know there's been a lot of new people who have found this channel recently, and I so appreciate you. I love that you're here sharing some crafty time. But I'm just putting it out there that I am very vigilant of this space, and I will not, under any circumstances, tolerate racist or discriminatory comments. I will delete them. And if they persist, like there was one person last week who I deleted their comment, and they posted something worse, and I deleted it, and they posted something worse, and I blocked them. That's not acceptable. Not here. And I would say I can't believe that people think like awful things, but I can believe it. I mean, I'm a pastor. I work with people, and that's of course the best and the worst part of my job. People are amazing and wonderful and give you hope, and also people are the worst. But here in the Cozy Cottage Crochet space, you are not allowed to be the worst. Absolutely not, especially if you have more power than someone else. So I know probably that message was unnecessary because everyone watching this video, or almost everyone watching this video, you guys already know that we are very protective of this space. And I just wanted to say thank you to some other people who, I don't want to mention anybody's name, but there were some people in the last episode and who have been very specific in monitoring the Ravelry group and on Instagram, who are just taking it upon themselves to be a barrier against hate to someone else. And I appreciate that so much. That is exactly what I want us to do. I want us to link arms and say, no, this space is safe. And if you're gonna be nasty, get out, okay? And if you're not a nasty person, if you're just here for the yarn, okay, that's totally fine with me. You probably aren't still watching. But I don't know, I've kind of run out of words. I'm not going to edit this at all because I want it to feel like it came from the heart, and it did. I've recorded this whole podcast in one shot. I'm not going to edit out anything that I said because I meant it all. And I just want to reiterate that if you are a person of color and you are an LGBT person, or there's any kind of intersectionality there, that I pick you. I want you to feel safe. I want you to feel welcome and valued. And if for some reason I say something that does not make you feel that way, or I post something or comment, or please, I don't want to put that emotional work on you. I'm doing my best. I'm learning. But if I do something stupid, I'm sure I will at some point. Let me know. I'll apologize. It's not my intention to hurt you at all. Or anyone, for that matter. Except for people who are being messy. So, that's all. That's the end of my rant. Hopefully, you guys have had a better couple of weeks than I am, with no stomach bug and no intense mental health days. But if you have had a rough couple of weeks, keep going. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Every day of your life does not have to be productive. Every morning when you wake up, you don't have to be excited and have a ton of energy for the day. I had a pretty bad day yesterday, actually, and I ate a lot of junk food all day, which I've been very specifically trying not to do. But it happened, and I am not upset about it. It's what I needed to survive yesterday. Today is a better day. I'm gonna eat a salad. Maybe not a salad. I'm not really a salad person, but like some vegetables. I'll try to get some vegetables in today instead of Doritos. It's fine. You're in a process. Just keep going. Keep breathing. Do something for yourself. Like, I'm gonna do some yoga later today. I have really been focusing on that as something that is very helpful and necessary for my mental health, just like knitting is. And apparently in the last 2 weeks, just like reading is. So be kind to yourself. If you wouldn't say it to your best friend or to your child, do not say it to yourself. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are a beautiful creation. You deserve to take up space. You deserve to have your voice heard. And you deserve to have people love you because you are inherently valuable. And I value you. Every 2 weeks when you guys come back, I am thrilled that you're here. So, sorry, I thought my husband was waving at me. He's working right over there, so if he gets a phone call at work, I have to like pause this video. So I'm gonna stop because I think probably that's gonna happen. I will see you in 2 weeks. If you would like to be a Patreon supporter and receive a love letter from me in your Patreon account every week, then there is a link directly for that below, and then I will be giving away this beautiful skein of yarn to anyone who signs up for that. One person out of everyone. What am I saying? If you won, Rachel, if you won the prize in the Year of the Sock, so please respond to me with your mailing address and I will get that out to you. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. And until then, please be kind to yourself and spend some time on your crafting. I'll see you in a little bit.